What is it that people desire more than anything else in life? What I believe from my own experiences of observing people I've worked with for 30 years is that whether they admit it or not, whether they're aware of it or not, people are motivated more than anything else by desire for connection and relationship. There's plenty of people who deny this, who just believe that the need for another person, or the need for a deep committed relationship is something that diminishes them or takes them away from themselves. But at the end of the day, connection is what we all crave. Love is a more precious element to life for us than food and water. We will give up pretty much anything in order to get love. And so this is why it's so important to talk about relationships. Relationships are what we're here for. Of course, there's also the relationship with yourself, and that is another relationship. But it's all about connections. Connection between your conscious and unconscious mind, connection between you and the earth, you and the natural world, connection between your soul and the spirit of the universe, connection between you and your fellow human beings, connection between you and your children, you and your partner. So if we want to embrace this truth, if we want to accept that relationships are what matter most to us, then it falls upon us to figure out what is it that's getting in the way. And what normally is the obstacle to relationship, to having a relationship, or to having a satisfying relationship, a healthy relationship, a truly intimate relationship, comes back to trauma, relationship trauma. What do I mean by relationship trauma? Any traumatic experience, any loss, any abuse that happened to you in the context of relationship. And that's where most of these traumas occur. Most of our traumas happen in the realm of relationship, either directly related to something that happened in a relationship, like a parent that wasn't there for you, or a parent that was abusive, or a loss, losing a parent and having to raise all your siblings as the oldest child in the family, and not having your own innocence, your own childhood, your own experience of being cared for and taken care of, and instead having to be the caretaker to everyone. These are all traumas. They all happen in the context of relationship, in the context of family. And I can hardly think of a single time in all of my work with people who are trying to work on their relationship life and really deeply examining what's going on in the patterns in the relationships that's not working for them. I can not think of a single time that it doesn't, in some very real and often very direct way, relate to what they grew up with. We just recycle these patterns on and on through our life until we release them. So what does it mean to release a trauma, a relationship trauma? Well, like any trauma, if we're using a technique that actually is worth something, that actually does what it should do, that actually can resolve, truly heal a trauma, what does it mean? It means that before working on that trauma, you hold a memory. Of course, we also have unconscious memories that we experience on a body or an emotional level, but don't necessarily have conscious memory of. But for simplicity's sake, here I'm talking about a conscious memory. If you have a conscious memory of something traumatic from your past, and you go into your mind and you think about it. Usually it has some clear image or imagery to it, and it triggers an emotion. If you're really paying attention to it, it triggers an energetic or emotional reaction in your body. Something in your body feels sick when you think of it, or tense, or pain in the heart, or the throat, or some signal in the body and some emotion that arises. Usually it's obvious because when someone talks about a traumatic event and somebody's truly listening, being present and listening to them, emotion comes up. Maybe so much emotion that they get choked up and it's difficult to even express what happened. This is a trauma. By the time we're finished working on a trauma like this, using a technique that works, which is usually a somatic or energetic technique, or both, that memory changes. It doesn't just change because we convince ourselves that we accept it, or we talk ourselves into seeing it a different way, or we forgive somebody. These are all superficial levels of working on something. What I mean is that fundamentally, the memory changes. And that means that after working through it, every layer of emotion, every layer of pain, both emotional and physical, are gone. And so that recycled memory that just loops in your mind and body for years, can loop in there for your whole lifetime, there to be triggered again and again and again, ceases. That loop ends. And that memory essentially collapses. So what does that mean? It means that if you go back to the memory afterwards and you check in and you think about that image that you had 10 minutes ago or half an hour ago before we worked on it, you don't find it. You don't see it clearly anymore. If you do see it at all, it's quite different. It's either gone from being full color to being very gray, or it's gone from being very big to being very tiny, like something very far away in your mind that's difficult to focus in on. Facial features that were there before working on it, you go into your mind and you can't see facial features. Sometimes you see the image of a person with a blank face. It's amazing, and it's not something that's done intentionally. That's not the result we're trying to force. This is something that just happens time and time again, very naturally, very organically. When you release the emotional energy, when you express and finish feeling the emotional energy and do something like tapping is my favorite thing, you are actually shifting your nervous system in relationship to that memory, and you're changing the memory itself forever. When you're done with it, you're done with it. When a 10 out of 10 emotional experience, trauma memory goes to a 0, which we test in different ways. Can you feel it? Can you see it? Do you sense it? When it's a 0, it's a 0 forever. You can go back and try to resurrect it, try to bring it back, try to feel it, try to get yourself upset about it, but you can't. That's the measure of a true trauma release experience. And for most people, most of the time, this is absolutely possible. Very realistic. It's the norm if we're doing good work. And so what happens after you've released a specific memory in this way, collapsed it, neutralized it, finished it, is that that formative experience that you've carried forward in your energy field, in your emotions, that has been projected out into the world and onto every person you meet, onto every possible partner that comes your way, that stops. The more of these trauma memories around relationship that you can release, the more you shift in how you're responding to other people and the energy that you're projecting and the illusions that you're creating about people, the blind spots that you have, they're all the red flags that you don't pay attention to. It all changes, and you begin to feel yourself in a different way. You feel your core, you feel your center, you feel your heart. You're tuned into your intuition, which was always there, but it was covered up with confusion, with mental chaos, with emotion, with fear. When all that's out of your system, what's left is just natural instinct, pure intuition. And you can see clearly. You see what you want and you see what you don't want. You perceive more accurately what qualities a person has standing in front of you, and you know immediately whether you want to lean in or say, no, thank you. And that's what changes the whole game. So I say this to give you hope, because most people can have this result if they do this kind of work. And it just means having some dedication to it and knowing what it is you're getting into and having trust in somebody to lead you there. So I'll leave you with that. Food for thought. There's always much deeper ways to change your relationship life than you ever imagined.